This is episode 3 of the Broken Instruments podcast. In this episode, I feature a very special person to me, a very important person to me, my wife, Mary Grace Carreon. If you listen closely, you might hear our daughter, Amela, peek in here and there. At the time that we recorded this, she was 5 months old. She is now 9 months old. So if you can imagine the amount of growth that she's had in the last few months. In this episode, we talk about loss and dealing with loss and how we can continue to live our life after we lose someone that we love. Okay, so I want to welcome my lovely wife. Welcome to the podcast, babe.
Hello.
So this is Gracie, or Mary Grace, my wife, and in the background you might hear her. That's Amela, our daughter, our first child. She's now 5 months. Yes. This year. She was a COVID baby, born in April. There was actually a topic that I thought would be good to talk to you about. Mm-hmm. And it's something that everybody deals with at different times of their life. And I think it really is something that we can talk about, because there was a lot of different types of things that we've gone through, and particularly you've gone through in your life. And it's important to kind of highlight those, I think. And I mean, I'm thinking it might help, or you might be able to help somebody that might be going through things in life, right? Yeah. So this episode is about dealing with loss, right? So I think in everyone's life, we have possessions that we think are going to last forever. And there's one time in every possession where we realize the value of something. And a lot of times it's when you lose it.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be good to bring you on for this particular episode because at a young age you lost your dad.
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah, I was 11 years old, and I think the hardest part too was because it was unexpected. It was an accident, where he fell off a ladder, and it was just a normal Monday. He came home from work, and then he just went, or he left, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I didn't realize I was going to be the last time I saw him. And as an 11-year-old, sometimes, you don't really know, you don't really understand things fully. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was tough just because, for me, it was just, I lost my dad. I didn't really know, the deeper meaning, or, the feeling of really losing somebody. So, I mean, obviously, I was still young, and it was just me and my mom. But good thing, we live with my family, my mom's siblings and my grandparents. So we weren't alone. And I think since it was just me, since I'm the only child, and it's just me and my mom, it was obviously harder for my mom, just because obviously that was, her life partner.
Yeah. And
for me, as I grew older was when I was starting to feel the loss more. I don't remember exactly how old, but it was probably maybe either a few months or a couple years after. Because I remember even at the funeral or at the viewing, I was playing with my cousins. I wasn't really showing that I was sad. I wasn't just sitting there. Yeah. I was running around. I remember with my cousins outside.
Was it intentional, or you feel you just naturally didn't really want to think about it? Or?
I mean, as you me, when it comes to emotions and feelings, I don't like to show it.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, it wasn't intentional. Or it probably partly was. it's just, I just don't like showing emotion or like that I'm sad.
Yeah.
Or like, cause I don't like crying cause I'm already a sensitive person. So when it comes to like me crying, I just don't like showing that vulnerable side of me.
You're a very emotional person for sure.
Yeah. So I think I try to keep my emotions in, and when like situations like that, when it happens, I just don't like being in that kind of state.
Yeah.
And so I feel like obviously as I grew older and I really understood, and like I kind of miss, obviously seeing my friends and like their dads growing up and like how they are, or they would tell stories and stuff. And it's like, I wish I could have had that, or, it's just, I missed out on that part of my life.
Like, I guess that's the saying, right? Like, you don't realize how valuable something is until it's gone.
Yeah.
And of course that pertains to like our loved ones too.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really lost anyone as close as like a father would be to somebody. But definitely like having to deal with it and understanding that nothing lasts forever is like the hardest thing to accept, I think. I mean, even talking about things like just normal possessions that we have, like when you have like a favorite pair of sunglasses, or I don't know, whatever is valuable to people, or you lose something very valuable, you really understand the value once it's gone.
Yeah.
And when something you feel can't be replaced, I don't think you ever really forget about it, because everything would remind you of it. Like, I mean, when you're saying like your cousins and their dad and stuff, it's when you see that and you feel it, then what do you do? How do you kind of snap that into, I guess, something healthy for you to get through?
I think just understanding that our life isn't our own, and just having to realize that everyone's gonna die. It's just a matter of when. So I think that, and like that everything happens for a reason and everything is meant to be.
Yeah.
And for me, like, especially like that's kind of what got me through, is that it was his time, even if it wasn't our plan or like what we wanted, like me and my mom, but it's just all part of like God's plan, to where he's in charge of when he wants to take us. So I feel like even if I was young, I feel like I understood that at a young age, especially just being active in like our church. So I feel like that's the biggest part, that like our aspect of my life that kind of got me through the loss. And
so because we're both nurses, we understand that there's like stages of grief that everybody has to kind of get through. And I know like they say there's like an order, and it's like according to like Kübler-Ross or something. Did you ever experience denial, like where you didn't believe it, or you just didn't think it was real?
Yeah, I feel like it was probably like a few days like after, just because when you go through like your normal routine, or actually I feel like it was probably like maybe like a few weeks, just because like you're still in that like,
well, like you're in shock.
You're in shock, and just kind of like wondering, like, is this really real? Like, and when you wake up in the morning, it's like, is he really gone?
Yeah, a lot of people feel like it's just a dream.
Yeah, and like you wish it's a dream, but yeah, like you do. I did feel that, where it was like, this isn't real.
I mean, you were young, but did you ever feel like any like anger or kind of frustration with it happening?
Surprisingly, I don't think it was anger towards that, like he was gone. If anything, it was probably more towards myself, that I wish I could have done more, or I wish I could have like been a better daughter,
Yeah. So I think, and that's actually the next part, like bargaining. Where it's not, I mean, people think bargaining is like, oh, like, will you give him back if I do this? Like they're talking to God or whatever. It's like, oh, can we go back and like I'll be, you know, I'll do something different or something.
Yeah.
But it's not just asking, it's really feeling like and questioning yourself, like would it have been different if I did something else in the past? Like if I was a better daughter, you know, and I know that's naturally for everybody. So obviously like you know that that's not true.
Yeah.
It's just naturally we question ourselves and we question our actions because of course you want it back.
Yeah.
It's almost like you want to rewrite it. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of not skipped over anger, but I think at that age, and it's, I mean, with your faith too, and the family's faith and tradition, maybe it was there maybe for family members, like, you know, your mom
like
and stuff,
my mom,
and your uncles and your grandparents. But at the same time, it's, I mean, being that age, I think it's different when you're 11.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of anger, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's where I mean, where it's like, I didn't fully understand the loss at that time. Yeah. It was more towards when I got older.
Did you see your family though? Like any feelings of that?
Yeah, I mean, like especially like with how the accident happened. He was wearing slippers, like flip-flop slippers.
Oh wow!
On a ladder and like coming down. Obviously, like, you know, they were like, they were saying, you know, like why? They're like, why would you go up the ladder wearing just slippers? Like, you know, you could have, like, if you could have worn shoes. And that's where also it leads into the bargaining. It's like, what if he wore shoes? Or, you know, like he wouldn't have fallen.
Oh, so dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I think that's where, like, the anger part.
Yeah. And naturally, everyone's going to be like, why was he on the ladder? What was he doing up there? You know what I mean? And that's, when we talk about anger, it's not like you're just like mad at the person. You're not just mad at yourself or the situation. It's mostly just like we're trying to displace this feeling.
Yeah.
Right. There's an element of like aggression with loss. So it's like they describe it as anger.
Yeah.
Now, past bargaining, like wondering if like things could have been different, or, you know, I wish like if we can turn back time and stuff. Did you actually get to a depressed state, like depression?
Not depression, but like there would be times when it would like it would hit me, and I would realize that he's gone, and like it and it would hurt, but it wouldn't be to the point where I'm like depressed for like days, but it would hit me and I would like break down and cry.
Really?
But it wouldn't be that bad.
Like
but
how long after?
Well, I feel like with me, even my mom noticed it too, that obviously it was harder on my mom.
Yeah.
And so she was going through like all those stages, and I felt like I had to be the strong one in the situation. Yeah. So I feel like when my mom started to be okay, that's when like it hit me, because I was like being stronger for her. So, and it would be hard.
You were
like
kind of bottling it up.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Like if we were both in that state, then, and I mean, it wasn't like intentional, but like looking back, and even my mom says it too, that I kind of had to be the strong one for her, because if my mom were to see me like that, it would be harder for her too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I even remember like you started like, well, you didn't get sick, but you had like some like heart palpitations or something one night.
Yeah. And that was during one of the viewings. And I think
so it was like a few days after.
No, it was, a few days after, but it was like, during the viewing. And all of a sudden, like I just couldn't breathe. Like it was so, my chest was so heavy.
Do you feel like it was like a panic attack?
No, I don't think so. It was just so strange, like how it just had to happen that way, where I even had to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that, like when you're in like an emotional stress state, or like, you know, mentally drained or overwhelmed, it shows up in the body. And if you keep suppressing it, or if it's repressed or suppressed, either way, like it's going to peak out somewhere. Yeah. And I feel like that's one thing that can happen, where out of nowhere, you weren't doing anything in particular to make yourself, or thinking anything particular to make yourself feel that way, and it just started happening. It started exhibiting.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you started feeling that way?
I was honestly scared just because I was like,
what's happening?
Yeah, because I mean, I did have a history of a heart problem.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just that, and obviously, like what you said, the feelings, it shows up in your body when you don't realize it.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I was bottling up my emotions, and so it just.
I'm curious what they did at the hospital. What did it come out to be?
They just boiled it down to me being like stressed and because of the loss,
Yeah.
So, and I felt okay. Like everything was fine. They couldn't find anything wrong.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Like, that's the thing. I mean, to get to the acceptance part, I don't know. I mean, it's different for everybody. Like, when did you get to that part, and what helped you get to that part of understanding, like, this is life now, and he's not here, and it's like you have to keep moving. Like, what helped you get there, and how long did it take? Those types of things.
It's hard to really say how long. It's like just because sometimes, like, I don't really remember. Like, there's times when I remember exactly what happened, but I feel like it did take a while just because as I grew older, that was when I really started to realize, maybe like a few years, really realize that, he's not here, he's not coming back, and he is watching from above. So obviously he would want us to have a good life and live a good life, and, not to just always think about him to where, it's just going to affect our lives here. And of course, he always wanted the best for us. He always did the best that he could for us. So I feel like it was a few years, and just, just accepting that he is going to be still guiding us from above or wherever he is, and that he's still with us.
Yeah, I think like faith really does help.
Yeah.
And, believing in the afterlife, or at least that life and the soul and the spirit is bigger than our physical body.
Yeah.
And every time, we're with people that lose someone, I think that's ultimately what we get to, where it's the person is closer to you more now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to believe because they're physically not here, but I feel like they understand you more now. They're able to move. Yeah. They're able to move things around and help you in this life. Yeah. Like a guardian angel or something. Mm-hmm. And we met a year. Oh, not met. We started talking a year after, around a year after that he died.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were still, just talking, so it wasn't really something I was able to really talk to you about.
Yeah.
But I feel like getting to know you, you were definitely more mature at your age than other people, and I'm thinking it's because of that too.
Yeah.
That you just looked at life differently, and it made me even understand more that if we were to have a relationship, that I have to be aware and cognizant to make sure that, I don't want to hurt you, and I want to make sure that, even more so, I want to help you and be part of your life, add to your life, not necessarily to fill any void, and no one can ever fill that void of your dad. But I definitely made it a point to understand that, you've been battle tested, that you've been through stuff.
Yeah.
And from there, we kind of picked up, and we just kind of had a relationship for, it's 15 years now.
Yeah.
Of getting together. And, like, our relationship, no relationship is perfect. Our relationship was, not perfect.
Yeah.
Our relationship wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
Like, no relationship is. I feel like I forgot which of your uncles, but one of your uncles told me that they noticed that when we first started talking, or when we got together, that there was like a hint of like brightness and lightness, like with you. And it was just, and it's, I think it's just us, getting together and kind of our lives merging into something that we always highlighted as a blessing in life. And it was never my intention to be a light for you. It was just, I wanted to get to know you more. I wanted to be friends and closer. Obviously we were together for 12 years before we got married. So, I know one thing that we did experience together, and it was a little bit different, was, our first year of marriage was it was a hard time, I think, with us.
Yeah.
So we got married in January of 2018, and in May we found out that we were that we were expecting. So we conceived early. We're thinking like maybe end of March we conceived our first child. And of course there was all this excitement, and me and you were very goal oriented. We were very strong willed in everything that we did. And I think it was a real reality check for both of us in May when we at the 11-week.
It was 10 weeks.
Yeah, it was like the 11-week appointment, and we found out that the baby's heartbeat had stopped at 10 weeks.
Yeah.
The baby grew to 10 weeks, and they could not find the heartbeat anymore. And I think that was probably the biggest reality check for me in life, that nothing is promised, right? And for us, we were both very, like I said, strong-willed, and we were very determined in making our lives to the best that we can.
Yeah.
And this was one thing for sure. I feel like, one, we didn't expect. Two, that we didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, because it was a different type of loss.
It was a different type of loss.
We never thought that we would experience.
Yeah. Because I want to say, like, we've had so many blessings.
Yeah.
Almost, I would say, the perfect life.
Yeah.
And perfect not in the sense of like, oh, everything good happens to us. It's that everything that has come in our life, like we've been able to handle it.
Yeah.
And even if it was stressful or it was hard or dark, we got through it together. And I think that day at that doctor's appointment, when they couldn't find the heartbeat, I was at loss for words.
Yeah.
And I was kind of confused with what to do. I was like kind of paralyzed.
Yeah.
And all I really knew to do was just to get the next thing done in front of us. Like, what was the next thing we had to do?
Yeah.
And like kind of one step at a time, like literally one step at a time. Because I think it hit you first.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me a while to process it for some reason. Because like when we were in the appointment and the doctor was looking for it, and then they're like, I think the doctor was kind of like just quiet.
Because they were using the Doppler.
So
and they said that usually, we can hear, but if not, if the baby's still too small, then we'll try the ultrasound.
Yeah.
So right when she couldn't hear it with the Doppler, like my heart dropped already. Like I already had a feeling something was wrong.
I was just so jaded. I didn't even realize like it was, or that could be the reason.
Yeah.
So when they, the specialist came in, was it a sonographer or something? I forgot. So they came in and I mean, at that point, that's when I put away our camera because it was all excitement up to that point. We were videotaping everything and we were kind of like documenting for the baby. And I think at that point, when I put my camera away and you were crying, and I was just like, oh crap. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember looking at you, and I was like,
I don't know what to do. Yeah. So, I want to say the hospital staff and the doctor were just so compassionate and empathetic towards us, and I'm very thankful that they understand. But I remember having to make that decision, even there, like, you know, to have the surgery to get everything removed, like the DNC. I remember getting home, and I think that's when it really hit me. Mm-hmm. I think it's because being in my position, like as a man or as a husband or as a father, it was more like, I want to get us home. That's what I felt when we were at the hospital and we were talking to the doctor, making all these decisions. I was like, yeah, like whatever we got to do. And I guess it speaks to, like, I understand now that, like, when we got home and it was just us two, that's where I felt like I could let it out and talk because we're safe at home.
Yeah.
I didn't need to be like alert or like have more situational awareness for our safety and things like that. When I got home with us, it was more like, oh shit, like, excuse me, like, oh, this is real. And all I remember saying, because I know we were both in the room and we were both crying on the bed, and it was I think it hit me that wow. I said I don't know if you remember. I think the only thing I said was, we were going to be good parents. We were going to be good parents.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was hard to, like, you know, tell people.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody that knew, it was just, how do you spread the news, you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, it's like, that's the first time I felt like 200% excitement down to negative 200% excitement. It was just like, from like super bright to super dark, pitch black, you know? Unexpected, and just, there's no way you could have expected that. And now, and at that point, I understood that nothing's promised. Now, getting through that, like, of course, we progressed through the entire thing. Like, I felt that.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, we made it a point to switch negatives into positives. And, you know, we always told ourselves, like, it's not our time.
Yeah.
What was your, like, I don't know, like, what was your process through those first few months, at least? Because we kind of worked through it differently, I think.
Yeah. I mean, like, it is harder for the women because, you know, we're the ones carrying the baby. So I feel like it hits us differently.
Of course.
And especially with, like, I think I went through that whole stage. Like, denial of, is this, like, no, like, this can't be happening. Like,
are you sure?
It's not happening to us. Like, you know? Yeah. Yeah, like we said, we never thought it would happen. So it was like a big shock. And then, you know, just being like, not necessarily angry to God. I think it was more towards me. Like, oh, I should have done something different. Oh, I should have, like, ate this or more of this. Yeah. Or not, I shouldn't have done that or ate that. You know, it was just like so much like anger towards myself because, you know, since we're the ones carrying the baby, I don't know if it was something that I did or didn't do. So I feel like that was really hard.
And we both knew that it wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it took me a long time, honestly, to really accept that it wasn't me. And, you know, just wishing that, obviously, like, I could have, what if I did this? It would have prevented it from happening. But it took me a long time to really accept. I mean, because it happened in May and we had like a really good talk in December. But with me, like, especially like coming home from work, I work with kids, I work with babies. Yeah. So it was tough for me to actually like see, like, you know, after it happened and having to like see them, like see kids, like, oh, like I could have had one, or it could be. And I think too, when we were talking in the room when it first happened, we kind of said, or we kind of thought that, maybe this is a sign that we're not meant to have a kid.
Maybe,
that we're not, we're not able to. And this is just like God's way of, telling us. And it was hard for me too, because obviously like I thought something was wrong with my body, where like maybe my body isn't strong enough to carry a baby. And especially with, like my history of like like fainting and like all that stuff. Like what if my body couldn't handle it? Mm-hmm. And that was going through my mind. And that's like already tough to accept, like apart from the loss, you know? So it was just so much.
Well, like what I'm understanding now, and I look back to that time, like it's the 5 stages, but it's not like necessarily in order, or no one's to say that you can cycle back to every stage. Like I feel like we went through every stage multiple times.
Yeah.
Because there's good days and bad days, and you wake up one way one day, and then the next day is just the complete opposite again.
Yeah.
And it's the constant shuffling through the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, and the acceptance.
Yeah.
I think we were both kind of like channeling our feelings differently. I never got to that emotional place alone. Like I feel like I kind of channeled it into work and like getting what we needed to get as far as like finances and our living situation. We made it a point to like go on vacations and go on trips together.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, like that's really what helped us get through, I think. Like we made it a point to... Are you okay, babe? We made it a point to know that we can balance between, thinking about it and being all about it, being enveloped in the darkness of it and observing ourselves and talking about it.
Yeah.
And then there was that counterbalance of, let's not think about it right now.
Yeah.
So it was like we suppressed it for certain things, like parties, or we go out for vacation. Let's go out and have fun. Let's see places. Let's experience life. And then we counterbalance that back down to the darkness and feeling it out.
Yeah.
I never wanted to resist or force any emotion with us. It was, what are we feeling? And we're usually vibing off of each other a lot when we're home, especially. And there was always times where we would need to talk about it, and we could tell.
Yeah.
We've had multiple talks. And everything that year was like your birthday, my birthday, holidays. It was like we always had those kind of checkpoints where we reassessed where we're at. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, like, we were able to express a lot of emotions to get us through it at those times.
Yeah. And I feel like, and I told you before, like you're the one who is really good with, communication. So I feel like you really did help me get through it, because obviously your mind can just take over and you can just like sulk and, like that feeling, and then slowly getting depressed. And I mean, I feel like I was getting there, but you did help me like snap out of it too. Help me like realize that, we still have a life to live. Like we still have each other.
Yeah.
And
that was a big thing that I kept telling myself when I would feel it or when we would talk, yes, we could have had a child. But we highlight even more now what we do have.
Yeah.
Not what we lost, but what we do have. Mm-hmm. And if I'm grateful for having a wife and having a partner in life, and that's all I have the rest of my life, that's the most beautiful thing I can ever imagine. Mm-hmm. The fact that we still have each other is that you're not alone, and that we still have everything we need. Mm-hmm. It's us dreaming of a future, making our own plans that kind of, made us feel disappointed.
Yeah.
So we definitely highlighted that a lot. And like you mentioned, all the way up to like Christmas that year, 2018 Christmas, I think there was like kind of a pivotal moment in our acceptance where like we realized like on all those talks that they're like, no matter how good we felt one day and then how bad we felt the other days, we were never really out of the woods.
Yeah.
Like you think you're out of the woods, but then, you know, those hard days come up and you're like, okay, we're really not that good yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, we made a decision at that point that, you know, after the holidays, after our anniversary, we'll start trying again.
And I think that's why, like, it was harder for us in that December because that's when the baby would have been born.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, that was tough to actually go through. You know, like we kept saying too, like throughout the year, like, oh, they're going to be here like by Christmas. Like by Christmas, we're going to be a family. Yeah. And you're like having to like go through that feeling and remember it was tough. And I think like we both realized it and had those feelings that's where we had that good talk to where it
also too like us. The baby was going to be born that time and we had friends that had kids at that time and like they were all going to be growing up together. We had those ideas and plans already.
Yeah.
And you know, our friends had their babies, you know, safely and the babies were healthy and it was kind of like, well, we should have had ours.
Yeah.
That was definitely hard. I think that talk that we had in Christmas, it was really acknowledging how weak and vulnerable we are as people. Mm-hmm. And I think it solidified my faith in God and his almighty strength where we couldn't handle this alone. Like we couldn't handle it, not even just with each other, but having God in the center of our relationship, in the center of our home, really taught me what almighty strength is, that there's things that you can't do without the higher power. And we got through the holidays, you know, as best as we could. Our anniversary was in January, so after that we started trying, and I think we got to a level of understanding of whatever's in our cards, we're all in on that. Yeah. And that's all we can do. It became a mantra for me to expect the best things to happen, but prepare for the worst. Yeah. Always prepare for the worst. And, you know, I feel like when we kind of use that as our mantra, it helped us get through those kind of like aftershocks. Yeah. Where it would come back, you know, it would come back and it would be an aftershock. And being open to our path in life. Yeah. And however we process through that, whether it be exercising, because I know that you started going to the gym with me, you were getting stronger. Yeah. Like you'd be squatting. You know, it was like one of those things where it became like a thing for us to kind of bond also. We would get to go to the gym. We kind of made it a point to always remind each other, you know, where we're at. And I think every month from January after the next few months, it was like every time you would get your period, it was that cycle of like frustration. Yeah. And it's like, you know, like, okay, what if it's never going to happen? Yeah. And then our mantra changed into good things can't happen if we are in a bad state. If we're unhappy and we're frustrated and we're angry or doubtful, how can good things happen? How could blessings come? Yeah, exactly. That's not faith, right? So I think that became our mantra, like to get and to be blessed with the good things in life, we had to be in that good frequency, and that's how good things happen. Good things don't happen to people that just are angry at life. I don't believe that. Yeah. And that's why I like to, like, you know, you're saying that we kind of like, you know, we started like working out and stuff more. You know, I kind of wanted, and it was like a way for me to, you know, wanting to get strong, like my body to get stronger. And healthier to, you know, be prepared if, you know, we do have another kid. Yeah. I mean, I remember like we started doing like better eating habits, supplements, physically exercising, and ultimately that dark story turned into the greatest blessing I think we could have ever received.
Yeah.
And not long after, I want to say like July.
Yeah, it was July
of 2019. So it took about a year really
for us to conceive.
Yeah. Or to even just like mentally process through the entire thing and get to the level of real, true acceptance.
Yeah.
And what was crazy was, throughout this whole year, you were feeling a lot of pain, in your reproductive system. And there was a few months of us like feeling like this is probably preventing us from having a kid. So, if if you want to tell that kind of story, it's kind of what you were feeling and how we got to that point and what we had to do about it, things like that.
Yeah, I was scared because, it was the pain that was really bothering me, and the fact that we were trying for like 6-7 months and it still wasn't happening. So, I made an appointment with my OB like in June. And, she was like, because my mom has history of like reproductive problems. So we just wanted to make sure if everything was okay inside. Yeah. And if anything, like if I had a cyst or like endometriosis or anything, that they would be able to remove it. And so, it was scheduled for June. It was like June 28th. It was like June 26th, like the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
And then we had a wedding to go to like the week
first thing of June. First week of July.
Yeah, so the week after. So my doctor had said it's best to reschedule it. So because of the recovery period. So and then it was scheduled for July 31st. And of course, we weren't going to try anymore, like starting that month because of, the surgery and hoping, we get to find out like what's going on and what the pain is. So, we both decided, okay, we're not going to try this time. So,
which is weird because it was more like, well, we can't, right? Because you're going to have surgery. So at that point, I feel like we both really let go. And it became true acceptance of the plan, right? It became true acceptance of, well, okay, so it's not time. It's not going to happen. Let's just be free.
Yeah.
And that was like the craziest thing that ever, I think, happened because it was, everything was serendipitous. Like, I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that it was pushed back and things like that. You were scheduled for surgery, like real surgery. It was like postponed until July.
It was July 31st.
So then on July 30, or at least leading up to then.
Yeah, because when I say like we weren't trying, when I said we weren't trying, it's like, we were obviously, or I was using like an app to see like when I was going to conceive, when I was ovulating and stuff. So I think like July, we're like, okay, we're not going to try like that this month. It's just going to be whatever happens. And obviously, like, we're like, okay, nothing's been happening, so we're not going to take any precautions or anything. So, but yeah, and then since it was scheduled the 31st, I had work that 30th, the day before the surgery, and then in the morning, I just wanted to make sure. I just took a test, wanting to make sure that that I'm not pregnant, just to be safe. And then sure enough, like that morning when I took it, there was like this really, really faint line. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that would be so crazy if I was pregnant because we weren't trying and I have surgery tomorrow.
Yeah.
And all this time, like we've been trying, nothing's been happening. And so I was in shock. I was like, no way, this is not happening. I was like, is that really a line?
This is before you went to work.
Yeah. And then, so this was like 5 o'clock in the morning, like almost 6 o'clock. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this for real? So I remember taking a picture of it because I just like, I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't really focus at work. I was like, okay. I just kept looking at it every time I had a chance. And then sure enough, like when I got home, actually before I got home, I remember stopping by the pharmacy store to buy more tests. And then you were cooking dinner.
Yeah. I remember prepping because you were going to have surgery the next day. So I prepared a really good meal, a lot of protein, like got some steaks, got even all this like post-surgery nausea foods like crackers, soup.
Yeah, and then so I remember I took a shower and then I took more tests and it was the same thing. I took 3. Yeah. It was 2 of the line and it was like really faint and 1 of digital, but that one, it said not pregnant. So I remember
the digital one.
Yeah, when we were going to eat, before we ate dinner, we prayed and I was like, okay, babe, like I have a dilemma.
Yeah, I remember I was ready to chow down, man. Yeah, and then all of a sudden it was like, you said, oh, I was like, babe, I have a dilemma. And I'm like, oh, you're like, what? Oh, what? What? And I got all scared, dude. And it's always like that.
And then I showed the 3 tests.
I don't even know. What was my reaction?
And your face was just like in shock. Like you kind of had like a smile. You had a smile and then you're just like, wait, what does this mean? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know.
Because I was like, dude, you have surgery tomorrow.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. What are we supposed to do? And I was like, look, because it's like a really, really faint line, but this one says like not pregnant. So I don't know. And then.
Because your surgery was like, we had to check in at least at what time?
It was like in the morning.
That's why it was kind of like, what are we supposed to do? Because everyone's off already for the night or whatever, the doctor and stuff. I think at that moment, we kind of suppress it as much as possible. We tried to eat dinner and we're like, all right, let's talk about it later. And I think we agreed to try again in the morning. You're going to take the test again and then we're going to call.
Yeah.
Long story short, we got a hold of the doctor in the morning, or not the doctor, but someone was able to talk to the doctor who was in another operation. And they said if there's any chance, even a little hint that there was possible pregnancy, that we're not going to go with the surgery. So we kept this our secret for months because of what happened the first time. Like we didn't want to tell everybody and have excitement build and then kind of have that, that fall, the crumbling of a building that we built, So it was our little secret and it was kind of like we progress through each week, just monitoring you and making sure that you're still okay.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we got to that 10-week mark, and I think up to that 10-week mark was like terrifying. Every appointment, it was like we were traumatized. It was really trauma.
Yeah.
And because we dealt with it, we got through that of that disappointment and that feeling that we were kind of traumatized and never wanted to go through it again. So there was like always like a silent anxiety and fear every time we would go to the doctors for the appointment and stuff and checkups. And I remember like, I don't know if it was like the 12-week or something, the 12-week appointment or something like that, where they were going to check for the heartbeat again. And I remember like hearing the heartbeat for the first time, and it was like, not for the first time, but every time.
Yeah.
And it was always, oh God, like, thank God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is...
It was always so much.
And it was like, every time, it was like, is this happening? And then every checkup, and then the sonograms, it was like, is she growing okay? And things like that. It was like, it's because of the trauma, we always looked at things from that perspective of fear.
Yeah.
Little did we know that she would turn into this little munchkin that's been making all this ruckus this whole time. And she's healthy and strong, and she's the best thing that ever happened to us. I'm not saying that she solved the issues. It's not that you need something to get over a loss. She taught us that when you finally get to true acceptance, I mean, you're allowing beautiful things to happen again. In that dark place that we were at, I feel like we were living life, and it was a good life, but there was always this lingering feeling of despair that we never got to shake, until we found true acceptance.
Yeah.
It's And knowing that people go through this all the time, I mean, it's definitely like a really, really important topic, because nothing in this world will last forever. We won't last forever. You know, and at some point, we have to understand that it's so cliche, but every moment does matter. And the real things that matter are right now, the present moment.
Yeah.
And we can plan for the future. We can ultimately, you know, shape our future. But there's always that overlaying destiny for life.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that's promised, is the end. It's death. So what we do now really, really counts. It's not like YOLO. It's not like, you know, do whatever you want, like just, you know, F it kind of thing. But more so like value what you have.
Yeah.
This is all that matters. And I mean, personally, like I love our life, and whatever the future holds for us, I feel like we're stronger because of what happened.
Yeah.
I definitely see you're stronger because of what happened. And I mean, even up to now, it's still our mantra to expect the best things to happen for us, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah. And I believe too, like, as hard as loss is, like, it does make you stronger, and it does make you realize things in life, and, you know, like the importance of what life is and what you have. And, you know, just to be thankful for everything you have, regardless. And even, you know, with the loss that we experienced, I feel like, yeah, we are different people. We are stronger. We learn from it. And
I feel like we are better parents, better human beings because of what happened.
yeah.
And maybe we're the parents right now that Amela needed. We're the parents now that Amela deserves.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason, I think. And if it's part of the story, what you have to do is just embrace the story, embrace the cross, embrace what is written for us.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Thank you so much, babe.
Thank you.